So it figured out what words you know based on whatever you click.
Right.
We predict more words that you might know, and then with these words we try to find on the internet things that you can already understand.
Right.
So we will go through collection of proverbs or songs or news, everything we have in the database, and reorganize it based on words you know already.
Cool.
So it's a sort of, you probably know, learning with text.
Sure, yeah, I've heard
So
about that.
for me it was an extension of that. I felt like learning with text is beautiful, but it's like we made a car and we didn't put the engine.
Right.
Sort of, it requires from me so much input. I have to put the text I want to read, I need to find them, and if I'm studying Lithuanian in my case, or Chinese, I don't know where this stuff is.
Right.
I don't know where the juice is. I need the juice and I don't know where it is.
Right.
And there's probably thousands of students before me that is already had the same problem. They figured it out and they put the juice, and now I cannot tap into this juice.
So you're kind of combining popular content and using your engine.
Yeah. So we put everything. Imagine we put all the songs that there are in Chinese,
right? And
then you start to reorganize them for every student. Every student has his own queue of songs based by what is easier and harder, in terms of how many words you know in that song.
Right.
And then people start to vote them, and some songs they're actually not easy, even if you understand all the words, so they will get downgraded, and we try to find the stars, so every day you will have 10 beautiful content to read.
Right. And you can choose how much you want to do at a time.
Yeah, you can play we have some people that they spend 2 hours sometimes, because actually it's real content. So you end up reading even the news from today, or blogs or Wikipedia or whatever. It's not we don't create any of the content.
Right. But it's popular content that uses.
Yeah, it's real content, like from the native use. So it's like my native friend, they will read the same stuff.
Right.
So imagine you take like all the newspapers there are in Chinese and you put them into Bliu Bliu. Now there's 1,000 news every day, and these are for natives. But if you're a student, the system will find maybe 3 news that by accident they just contain words that you already understand.
Right.
So you're reading news from today now and in Chinese, and you get like, wow, this is interesting. And the 4th news maybe will be a little bit harder, but still you can manage. The 5th one will be like a bit more complicated, but at least you got, it grows, and you get some gentle exposure, a bit more challenge, and this is the concept what we're trying to to put in there.
So you developed it out of inspiration from the learning with text.
Yeah, I was inspired by many places. One big inspiration was I was studying Lithuanian. I think around week 2 there was a story in my book.
Okay.
Of course, the teacher wrote everything. She knew that I need to create a story with this 50 words.
Right.
And it was like Mantas is a small kid that lives with the parents. The mom is a teacher. Father is banker.
Yeah.
They go to the countryside. There's the father works in the field.
Right.
But it was this long.
Caveman.
And I was like, so this is, if this was in Italian, I will puke. Like this is the most boring story.
Right.
But in Lithuania, this is like Nobel Prize of literature for me. This is the top I could read and understand. And I was like, now you could scramble these words. Instead of a banker, it could be a mathematician.
Of course.
She could be a basketball player. It couldn't, if you start to play like this, there's millions of stories like this, similar, but where are they? It was like, I don't know where they are. I need to find one of the story. I need to get 99 stories I don't understand, and then one that is like juice, and then 99 that is like boring, too hard, and one juicy.
Right.
Why we don't reverse and we let the computer do the job and find 99 stories that are good and one that is like not so good?
Okay. That's great.
This was the inspiration.
And then you developed it with presumably a partner, or was it something?
Then what I did, this was when I had the idea, I posted on Benny Liu's website.
Yeah.
And I posted guys, I think I had a revolutionary idea. Let's make this. And it was like a post very long.
Yeah.
And 2 people replied, but not so much. I was suspecting, for me it was I just discovered
gold.
It's the earth rotating around the sun, and whatever, dude.
Yeah.
So for 1 year, I could not program this. So for 1 year, I was looking for people. With a friend, we started to tweak a little bit, learning with text. We realized that like this is too hard. We need to record everything. And then I realized this was a startup potentially. So I went through the process of raising money, and I pitched this idea into startup events. And I won one event in Lithuania. Then I won another one in Latvia. And suddenly people started to call me like, how much money do you want? This apparently is a good idea.
Right.
And then I raised like 100,000 euro, and with that I got salary for the team, and we started to develop. So I got actually 3 developers like full-time employed, and now I got a designer. We're expanding. And
how new? It is fairly new, isn't it?
The first, so with the prototype, it was in December 2012.
Right.
It was when I cried. When they gave me the prototype, we put it in there. I think 20,000 Lithuanian jokes. I mean, like maybe 10,000. I don't know, thousands of jokes.
Yeah.
And I started to play with it. Clicking which words I knew. I don't know. So blonde. I know. And suddenly I started to get jokes that I can understand. Wow. And it was like, this actually works. It was like. The idea was cool, but and I cried for seriously. Fantastic. I cried, and then from there, it was a very rudimental version, and we started to play with it. And so the official we launched that it was 14th of February 2013.
Right.
That was the launch. It was because that day we won the competition in Riga, and we got a TechCrunch. And it brought so much traffic that it crashed the server, of course. But it was interesting. And so from there, then it was live. It was public beta. Of course. And so it's been 1 year and 3-4 months now.
Right. That's amazing. What kind of developments are you working on now? Because obviously when you have the system, big part of it is developing the engine, as we called it.
Yeah, we have three things.
What's coming on in the future for it?
Many things. But on the core of the system, we got like one algorithm that figured out if you know this word, what do you know more? Right. If you don't know this word, what do you don't know?
How do you figure out something? Is that you get a really clever guy to do that, or is it quite simple?
It's based on we do this for languages we don't know even.
Right.
So it clusters like users.
Right.
And see statistically when you know this, what else do you know?
Right.
And then this is we have some of this, we're refining this part. So because the first part is really understand, we need to approximate what is your level,
Of course, yeah.
And
it's a big part.
Because once we have your bubble, now we know also what are statistically the next words that people usually from here, where would you go? And if you tell me also I like sport, I go, okay, based on this, what kind of juice can we look for you?
Right.
And then the other algorithm is take this bubble of words and throw it into the internet. Right. What do I get back?
Right.
This is the other one. And so this is one side we're working on. The other one, it's of course gathering more content. So also doing the crowdsourcing part.
Right.
Because imagine you have friends around you, and they could basically communicate with you through Bliu Bliu. Yeah. They could write you daily messages, and Bliu Bliu will simply tell them look, make it easier. This words. To me, I wish from my friends, I wish that they would write more Lithuanian to me.
Yeah.
And I would like that they will make it not too easy, not too hard. You know, at the perfect level where I get what they want from me, but there's a couple of new words.
Right.
That's perfect. So Bliu Bliu will help them without me asking, can you make it simpler? I didn't get it. Right. That's when, when you get I feel stupid again.
Right.
But so I would like the system to connect me with my environment. Right. Don't connect me with strangers. It's fun to do a tandem with somebody in Brazil, but I have so many friends around me that I want them to know my level first. Because when I speak Lithuanian, sometimes people look at me like, "Wow, you speak so much." Yeah. They don't know what level am I. They just think it's very hard. You will never learn it, and that's what people believe for many languages. Right. So this is one other field that we want to get.
So you want to use all the data that you're collecting to constantly improve the experience and provide more targeted content.
Yeah, because for me it's also not just the text. Now we have maybe 80% is text. Then we got 10% audio and text and 10% video and text. To me, if you could bring actually human talking to you,
right?
You will go through a conversation. There will be conversation evolving with you. So you always will get the same conversation about the weather using 3 more words.
Right.
So every week.
That's pretty clever, yeah.
And you know, it will be still challenging. You will get to hear different accents, different people. These are real people, not somebody recording like, today the weather is very good. It will be like teenagers talking about, oh shit, today it's like raining, I'm not going. And that's what it is. You know, this is what the weather I talk about. I don't I don't go on TV saying today it's going to be a sunny day. And
No.
like I need to complain about the weather or like say, oh my God, such a beautiful weather.
Right.
So that's more a language that I will use every day. And to me, that's why I don't want to. I'm trying not to make it too much academic in a way. You know, I want it to be like as real as possible with real content. Everything that is. If people use it, it's not a mistake.
Right.
Sometimes you go to school and the teacher will tell you, oh, you know, natives makes all the time this mistake.
Right.
And maybe if they do, it's not a mistake. You know, maybe this is the way the language evolved.
Yeah.
And so kind of having a smart engine that evolve.
Right.
And understand what are the most frequent words in this context, and let's use them. And without us doing too much. Of course, you want human to supervise, but having a general more people are in the system, the more the system learn from everybody and redistribute.
Yeah, because I would be worried about if I had to go to a site and let's just make up a site that had 10 levels, I would never really know where to put myself. But if the computer, if I took a little test, which I guess is the same for you as reading a text and then choosing, I know this, and this, then the engine knows my level, or at least approximates it. But that means that without that, I don't need to make that call myself.
Yeah.
It's an objective decision, because some people are like, oh, I'm perfect in German or whatever. And then they go test themselves and they're like, oh, I'm not as good as I thought. But if they know they're not as good as they thought, they can at least begin at the right place, right?
Yeah. That's, for me, it was the same. You know, I used to dance. I still dance. And in dancing, you always go, when you dance locally, you know what's your level, because you know the people. So I'm a beginner, this is intermediate. But when you go to an international event, everything is different, because beginner in Germany, maybe it's intermediate in Italy.
Right.
You know, people start to. This is relative. You know, and so level to me, they were and people also tend to kind of put themselves one level up. Right. Especially guys. Girls tend to stick. This was in dancing.
Right.
Guys want to be advanced when they're intermediate.
Right.
And girls, they're I think I'm intermediate, but they're advanced. And it's this in dancing, it works like this. It lifts and swings. So for me, it was let's not lift them. Maybe some people that want to say, I'm intermediate, I'm advanced, but we need to figure this out just by what they do.
Right.
And especially people, sometimes they tell you things that they actually don't do. Most of the time, your action. When you have 2 designs on the internet, you never say website. You have 2 versions of a website. Right. You don't ask people which one you prefer. No. You put them live at the same time to 50% of the people, and you see where they click, because their click is what it's important. Exactly. So on Bliu Bliu, we always change your level. Right. Every time you click a new word, the system makes new assumptions about you and get closer and closer.
Are any of those data that you're using, any of those data available to the end user? In sort of a form?
Not yet, but we want to. What we want to do, we really want to create this place where you can communicate with Anki, for example.
Right.
And you will bring your flashcards into Bliu Bliu, or the Bliu Bliu words into the Anki or whatever. And we want to really create infographics about a language.
Sure.
So you will open Chinese, and you will get which ones are the most difficult words that requires the highest amount of exposure. So now we're tracking all this data, and we want to make it available, because it's fun to know and it's interesting. And also we are tracking as an Italian, there's certain words that they're easier, and some other they're very complicated, like false friends and cognates, and so it's very interesting, the kind of data we're getting now. And as an admin, as the founder of the company, I see more data, and I'm very excited when I study and I see this data. We need to find a way to presented.
Right, but you can't just throw every number at people because they won't understand it. But
no, we did that. We did the mistake already. Like to show every single data. It was no, it's scary. But when you're in beta testing, you know, we had a lot of early adopters in the system. My mom wasn't there; she's still not there. And but you know, when you have early people like early adopters, they have tried every other program, you know, so they come and they want to see that there's some new stuff. And, so we tried to make it as exciting as possible. Fantastic.
Well, that was a nice little I guess introduction to the company and the website. And I'm definitely going to check it out because I really like like I said, that the machine kind of figures out my level instead of me having to choose. But maybe we could talk a little bit about you and the event. What do you think about the Polyglot Berlin conference so far?
I love it.
Yeah?
I love it. Like for me it's the first time, and I was invited by Judith. She was one of our first users. I don't remember how she found us, but she has been, she's very active. And like at least with the email she sent me. Okay. I don't know, I cannot disclaim if she's active on the website or not, but we've read a lot of emails. And so when she invited me, I was very excited to meet people, as I knew Benny from before. I've been like a user of you know, all these tools and some advices I found online before I thought this was going to be my life, my job and everything. So I was very excited to come here, and I thought this was going to be more nerdy in a way. Even if I thought, when I go to conferences, usually as I'm Italian, I'm the one that talks like, you know, more than average. But then I thought this audience, this specific audience is polyglots. And by definition, I think the main difference is that these are people that are more outgoing, easy to socialize, and this was exactly what this was. You know, when we went out the first night, we didn't know each other. It was like we knew, like, you know, almost like it wasn't the first time we met, you know. And I think this is I started to take notes at some point about how people ask questions at this event. They're totally different from other different places. Like people kind of participate. We tend maybe even to control the situation. Like it's very exciting. I mean, I really got the confirmation that there's something different in the personality. Like to learn 10 languages, you're a different kind of. You know, there's something that makes you stand out. Like you're brave. You're not. You know, some people they're weird socially. You know, they talk. Not in this event. I mean, in general, you know, people that they stop you at the bus stop and they talk to you, and you think this guy's weird, you know. But here, you don't get this feeling. It feels like, oh, I haven't met you. Like, when was last time we haven't seen in ages. Like, we just met right now. You know, this is kind of the constant feeling I'm having. And like it's this is a family. It's like we kind of know each other.
It's really weird, isn't it? But it's great.
We do have an interest in common, that is languages, but this is not the thing, because when I travel, I have the same interest. Let's say startups. I've been to many conferences. There's a strong interest in common. You don't have this feeling. I've been into the dancing thing. There is, because to be a dancer you need to be like more social, but here I've seen it like to the next level.
But it is interesting though, me and Chris, my roommate, we talked about it, that people who study languages are actually, I would say, probably more introverted than people who don't, because they study the language. If you were really extroverted, you just go on the street and you just speak a language, whatever. I think a lot of the people who learn a lot of languages do it because they are kind of, you know, indoorsy people that, I mean, this is a generalization, not everyone is like this. But then again, like you say, they come here and they kind of wake up in a sense, because like we discussed as well that, I mean, you said there was you expected it to be very nerdy, and I would too. And it's not because it is, but there's definitely that you know, it is
people creating new languages, you know, like the Klingon thing and everything, like to me, like people talking about grammar, like let's talk about a language with 120 words, like, you know, Chris so it was like, I came a little bit like, you know, 50% of me was prepared for the nerdy side, and 50% was like, I'm sure I'm gonna, you know, like knowing Benny and having seen other videos, you know, And
but why? How does that dynamic exist? I'm not sure I understand, because I think if you took everyone out of the polyglot conference and looked at them at home, I think the typical participant would be kind of introverted, kind of looking more to books than to people. But then you bring them together, and it's like you say, "Oh, hello," and there's no problem. You're sitting at dinner, it's like, "Oh, hey, we haven't met yet," But if you're in a cafe in your home country, you would never meet anyone like that, even if it's the most. I mean, we're all people.
We need to follow up with and then go randomly in their house and
I think that would be a great idea. I mean, but there is something about it that you share these kind of interest, and I don't know how you even got started in language learning or got into the whole. You said you were.
I started as an Italian. I started by studying English at school and not knowing anything. I went to London the first time. I copied the entrance test at the university.
Okay.
It was like a summer school, but I copied because I wanted to be in the same class as my Italian friends, and I managed. It was the advanced class, and I definitely didn't belong there.
Right.
And it was an embarrassing week. It was 2 weeks actually, and then I got to United States a few years ago, first time. Embarrassing experience, and then I started to watch DVDs in English.
Right.
So Friends, the TV series, I watched from episode 1 to 100 to the last one, and then go back and forth, and it was very passive, learning. And then one night in Rome, I realized that I could speak English with 2 girls from United States. Wow. I never done anything like that. It just really came out of me, just miraculously, and I was like, oh my God, I know English.
Right.
Then I moved to Finland, and I think in Finland that's where I first.
Why did you move to Finland? Sorry.
I don't know. I was in Rome, and my friends were in Sweden, and they were like, Claudio, we got a problem here. We cannot talk with girls. It's for some reason I'm famous because I make it easy.
I have seen that happen.
You've seen it. So, but I'm very easy. I connect people. I talk with people. So two of my friends were in Sweden. They were having fun, but they knew I wasn't doing anything, and they come. Right. So I went to Sweden, and then we went to Finland at the same trip, and I loved it. I loved Finland, and I decided I'm gonna move here. I didn't know anybody. I moved there 1 year after.
That's fantastic.
And in there, while I was studying Finnish, I actually improved my English.
Oh, wow.
My English became extremely good because I was using it every day.
All right.
And I was pretending that I was learning Finnish.
Right.
For me it was very exciting. My English was getting better. I was really feeling that. That was improving. And my Finnish, it got to a level where I can actually communicate with people. I really loved it, but it never got to where I wanted to be. And then I remember I was downloading all this Assimil, German, because I really loved the Assimil in Finnish. Yeah. So I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I started to check the German one, and I know the first lessons, I knew them by heart.
Oh yeah, you knew the meaning of them, I guess.
Yeah, I could I could go for it. And then I moved to, and then because of the dancing, I was always in this international community.
Right.
I really love to ask everybody, would you dance with me, in their own language. And maybe also I was remembered today that my father, when we were traveling when we were young, my father was, I thought he was speaking every language.
Oh, really?
We were going to a country and he was speaking with everybody. I was like, oh, my father, I was young, my father speaks Spanish, my father speaks French. And then he was telling me stories in Africa, they were speaking Swahili.
Oh, really?
And what he was doing, what I realized when I grew up, he didn't know any French, English, or Spanish. He was just having the Facebook and talking with people and really being this good at creating situations. And so maybe I got also this from my father. Wanting to communicate. I really wanted to, when I go somewhere, I want to say a couple of words and then if I live there, to learn more. And in Lithuania, I took it more seriously, and then unfortunately, I got this call, you need to create Bliu Bliu.
Right.
And
there you go. So how are you finding Lithuanian as a language? It's something you don't hear much about. I haven't seen any other speakers here at this conference.
No, there's no. I think I'm the only one. I can claim that I speak Lithuanian because there's nobody around.
Right.
So I am fluent. No, it's I don't like to complain. This was coming from courses I took online, self-development. Every time you complain about something, you put €2 into a basket.
Right.
So Is it difficult? I don't know, because kids, when they're 3 years old, they can speak it.
How is it compared to other languages?
It's different in a way that the pronunciation is quite easy, but words are completely different. It's a Baltic language. It's very old, and they have declension, so they have a lot of cases, and they have if you go with the grammar, it's quite complicated. I mean, it's Finnish also was very complicated with 17 cases and plurals, and then at least they don't have genders. There's no masculine and feminine.
Have mercy
in Finnish, but in Lithuania they have it, and they have the neutral, and they have so it's. But to me, that part was interesting. I'm not a nerd, but I like the grammar approach.
Yeah.
I like to study through the grammar. And it was very interesting. But as a language, I like it. To me, it's very also musical, and I like it. There's a couple of new sounds like sh, and this and.
I've heard that. It sounds like a Russian sound to me.
No, don't tell that. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. It's sometimes it's for example, "Przepraszam," that it's sorry.
Okay.
I think in Polish it's "Przepraszam." I don't know the Polish one, but it's very similar. So there's few words. Then they use a lot of Russian words in Lithuania, especially for this words the bad words.
Oh, really?
In Lithuanian, they have things like "Oh, you frog hand."
Oh, really?
That will be their insult, So they borrow from Russia the one the nasty ones.
That's great.
Yeah, it was. Russian has been a big influence in there. It was under the Russian, but the language is. It wasn't contaminated. Now with the young generation, as much as English is influencing, culture, they have Russian, so
coming from everywhere.
Yeah, and they pick, but the language is pretty much pure. There's not so much. Maybe the young generation, they use some slang. I think "maladiec" it's a good one. It means amazing, and they use it often. If they want to say something
nice or cool.
"Maladiec," and
That's impressive. So what languages do you have? Do you have any aspirations of learning more languages after that? And what would they be, if you know?
I think now recently I sort of dropped I had dropped the Lithuanian one. I kind of was so busy with my startup that actually I'm using it, but I didn't put the extra effort to learn really. So now we started to make videos in Lithuanian, and I'm really pushing myself out of the comfort zone more. But at this conference, I decided that I started to study Russian.
Yeah.
Because I don't know any Russian, and I think it's time for me also to go into a new alphabet.
Yeah.
To challenge myself a little bit more. And I have so many friends, Russian friends, and in Lithuania, I can practice Russian very easily.
Yeah.
With my friends, with random people, it's very easy to find them. So in the same nation, I got a possibility to practice both. And my Lithuanian now, they're not similar, so they won't confuse. They should be colliding. And my Lithuanian, it's more advanced. So I don't start them at the same time. I think it's good. And German has been always in my list.
Right. Have you looked at it before?
A little bit on the Assimil. I did a little bit of the Assimil. I want to go back to that, and I really want to take it seriously because it's a big language that I actually even like it. I like the sound of German. I like it, but.
German is very beautiful.
I don't understand. I cannot read. I cannot understand people. For me, it's just Portuguese and Spanish. I know. I don't know them, but I understand them as very similar with Italian.
Of course.
But German is a world that I ignore, and makes me suffer.
Particularly when you're in Berlin, right?
Yeah, no.
A lot of people speaking German here.
I've been practicing "Will you marry me" on the street today. Willst du mich
heiraten?
How was it?
Heirate.
I have in my notes, so I have to check. I got a lot of no, so I get a little bit discouraged. People apparently they don't want to marry me.
Well, we talked about your strategy is to if you ask 1,000, you're bound to get a yes here and there, right?
It will come as the big number, statistically somebody will.
Right. If you never ask, nobody's ever gonna say yes, right?
No, but this is kind of my strategy. In Finland also I started with "Would you marry me?" It was because anyway there's a lot of grammar. It's not just the one bad word that you say. Some people sometimes because you can make people laugh if you say in Italy people will come and say "cazzo," ha ha ha. People laugh. Right. You say twice, ha. 3 times like, oh, you know,
Goodbye.
Yeah, it's not that fun, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So instead of the bad words, I try to find some phrase that it's kind of funny,
It is funny,
and it tells that I'm Italian. You know, an Italian will go, "Would you marry me?"
Yeah, of course.
Like it's, you know, it tells a story in a way,
Right.
and it plays the. I like to play a role when I learn languages. I get by with the Italian. So from there, then I start to see what's the grammar. How can I play with this phrase? Once you know, I make it mine, then I go like, let's play with the marriage theme. You know, I'm single. What about you? Or then you go like, instead of "Would you marry me?" like, "Would you go for a coffee with me?" You can start to, you know, and you really make them strong.
And you meet new people as well.
And you meet new people. You have an excuse, you know. Once you say something funny, you just go, "Oh, I'm just practicing," you know. If you don't know more, and you can break the ice with a lot of people this way. And it's really funny. Instead of like, "Excuse me, where is the toilet?" You know, it doesn't really.
I don't speak English.
Yeah, this is more. I don't know, more fun, more like who I am. Maybe it probably doesn't work with everybody, but
of course. I mean, some people are turned off by. I mean, it's very direct, and in Northern Europe, we are very reserved. So when somebody comes to us like that, I can definitely see some people react negatively because it's too close. It's too definitely. But a lot of people they just get enjoyment out of it. Like the girl you stopped the other night.
Yeah, no,
it's an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
18-year-old legal reasons.
You need to see who you're. You know, you need to be smart enough to see this game doesn't work with this person. Like, and then just move on. Don't take it personally.
But I do find it incredible because I mean my personality is probably the opposite from yours. I mean take things very slowly, and I mean I need very specific invitations to go and talk to people, and I'm also a bit shy, of course, like so many people are. But the fact that we're talking about when we were looking for a bar, and some girl was coming with headphones on, and you just kind of went up to her and bumped into her and like, "Do you know where there's a bar?" And we were like 14, 15 people, and she was alone. She was 18 years old or something.
But it was daylight.
Of course,
it was still like daylight. I think it was barely like sunset.
It was a little late. But that doesn't really matter. But just the fact that and I think it was because she did it that way that she took the time to actually stand and talk to us. Because other people would just be like, no, and then move on. But because you went with that kind of the funny approach, which was a bit unintentional, I guess, because you didn't see the chat.
Yeah, I didn't see the headphone. Yeah, definitely. But I also wanted to look like it's very normal. You know, what I saw, I've been doing some sales, I've been reading about sales. Like, if you want to sell something, if you don't look confident, people will not buy it because they see there's something weird.
Yeah.
So when you start to, like, excuse me, the people have already a different attitude.
Right.
But if you make it look and sound like this is the most normal, I'm asking you to marry me.
Right.
You know, and I do it kind of serious and like I don't hide, and it's clearly that it's a joke, but kind of like, you know, people will smile at you and tell you like, no, I'm already, today I kind of learned at some point, you know, okay, this is no, I'm married already. I started to understand this kind of answer. So, and you connect with like people that they avoid you, like they will say no, avoiding you. Some people will say maybe and smiling, and you know, you also connected like the answer with emotions, and it's real. You kind of create, it's a bit theatrical maybe, and
of course.
Definitely an Italian way of learning language.
I would, if I had to describe it in Italian, I would probably just say you. You really have that kind of outgoing, you know, really loud, as you said earlier.
But then I tell you what problem I encounter in my learning languages, because when you start so fast, if I'm here like a week, I will learn many phrases, make a lot of friends, and then people will start to tell me like, "Oh, you're talented in languages." You know, the mistake, number one mistake, telling somebody is talented, because then you will hit the wall. You know, the wall is waiting for you at some point. You can go very fast the first month, 2 months, then boom, it's right there waiting for you, and then you go like, maybe I'm not that talented.
Right.
You know, and I normally constantly hit the wall, and then I go like, I don't get this boost anymore that I get, and sometimes it slows me down. Instead, I should keep pushing through the wall for a week or two to just find a new, like, you know, very fast speed lane.
Keep going.
But instead, sometimes I found myself like, in that case, I should have switched off the Italian mode and turn on the, introvert. Let's sit down. Let's not throw everything away. Like, let's breathe. We have come to here.
Right.
Good. Again, like kind of that thing. Being able to switch modes, and
that's definitely true.
It cannot be always a party.
Right.
Sometimes party's over. You need to accept that and kind of plan the next party.
And study as well, I guess.
The study part. Go and like, okay, now maybe I need to figure it out. This conjunctive that I've been ignoring for a while, and maybe practicing a little bit on the mirror or something like that, and because I think some techniques, when they do in the laboratory, like some techniques works better than others, but then in the real life, like there's so many variables. We humans, we're not really rational. That's my talk tomorrow about time management would be all about this, that we think we can manage ourselves, but we don't. We're so like controlled by our emotions that in language learning, for me, this is number one thing. If you feel stupid, inadequate, or like not good enough or whatever, then something in your brain will tell you, you know what, this is the most difficult language in the world, and you actually don't have time to study it. So you will start to tell, I don't have time, and you will convince yourself that you don't have time, but it's your body protecting you from this embarrassing experience that is learning languages. And somehow you need to treat your body all the time feeling that, actually this is cool. It's even being embarrassed is part of the learning experience. Most of the interesting conversation I had at this conference were about, we tend to tell people 10 advices to learn languages. But then if you think, what advice would you give to a kid to learn how to walk? Well, put first the right leg and then the right leg. But actually the greatest advice is you need to fall 1,000 times. That's how you learn how to walk, because you need to go through these mistakes. And I think what is very important for people, it's to go through these mistakes. So we actually will have to tell them, look, do these 20 things. They actually won't work. But you will learn a valuable thing. What you will learn from these 20 things, I'm already telling you, they won't work. But this will make sure that when you do the 21, the last one, they will work like magic. It's.
But do you think that people who are perfectionists, and it's something I definitely suffer from, do you think the perfectionists need to ease into not being perfectionist, or do you think that they need to change their entire mentality, like kind of? For instance, for me. If I need to be less of a perfectionist, for instance, when I'm studying Russian right now, and there's a few Russian people here, and I'd like to go and talk to them in the very little Russian that I do know, and I go up and go towards them, and I think about the sentence I'm going to say in my head. That's probably already not the best thing in the world. You should probably just do it impulsively, and then I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about that, and I'm not sure about this, and I end up not doing it. But the point is the problem. Like, is it a bigger problem, or should I just go up and fail, and then eventually my perfectionism is going to, fall off? Or what do you think?
That would be my advice. I think, the failing part is today again we were talking with Clayton, and we said he did the passive immersion for 6 months until you get to a level that you think now I have enough to go out, and then that you're going out to fail. But you kind of have enough material to fail, but not being discouraged in a way. I think the earlier, because failing will come, you will never wake up fluent.
Of course.
And
that's not how it works.
And the earlier you fail, I think, and you realize that it's not killing you, and you need to fail like in a controlled environment. You don't want to be on a stage delivering a TED talk in Russian the audience laughing at you. I'm always saying, out of the comfort zone, it's very different for everybody. For me, if I will have to deliver a speech naked, probably I would be a little bit embarrassed, but I could do that. It's not something that it's out of my comfort zone. I've lived in Scandinavia where being naked, it's okay. But then I have different things where I'm actually out of my comfort zone. So everybody is a different level, but just finding what's your comfort zone and being just, I need to fail. This is the fastest way I have to learn this. It's to fail it.
And speaking, I guess,
speaking,
that goes with that.
What I like about speaking is that it creates. I don't know if if I will speak on the mirror like or with this computer with the headphone, like I think it helps convincing ourselves. Sometimes we need to convince or to get more motivated. But I think what really works, and maybe even Christian said that when you start a conversation, when you talk with somebody, they talk back to you, and this creates conversation at your level, in a way. You set the bar, and then people, even they are like, they talk too weird and you don't get anything, or they understand you're learning and they make it easier. Now there is a conversation happening at your level. And I think our brain there start to learn how to connect things. If I'm asking you what's your name, then I know you're gonna answer me something with the name thing, and then if you start a question like how, and we just met, probably you're asking me how are you, and so the brain start to connect. In my native language, I can talk in a club very loud because I just need to hear 20% of the words to reconstruct the 80% of it. If I'm in a club in Lithuania and somebody's talking to me in Lithuanian and I miss the 80%, I cannot reconstruct the rest from the 20%. So I think the brain start to really anticipating, and this process of failing into anticipating, then the brain starts, no, this is, wrong, thinking. Good. So it starts to connect the dots. And that's why I think you should go out and fail, because that's how you make assumptions, and then, and the brain does it automatically in a way.
I think it's incredible, and I'm sure we could talk all night.
All night long. No, let's go and party.
And it's happy hour in the rooftop bar, so I was thinking about getting a beer, but I want to just thank you for taking the time to talk about your site and also yourself, because we, like you said, we only just met the other day, and we had other things to do that night, so thank you for coming, and I'm sure that people will check out the site. And I don't know if there's any other place they can get in touch with you, maybe you want to mention?
No, I think we write a lot. I started now on the blog, that is blog.bliubliu.com. We start to experiment. We talk one day of the week about ourselves, and then one day we talk about startup. If you're interested into, starting your own thing, raising money, I got a lot of experience now. I know exactly how to raise 1 million. If you need to raise 1 million, I know how to do that. And then we talk about learning languages in general. We feature other places. We put a link every week. And I started this facilitation. I'm really excited about the language parent. This, how do we teach natives to teach us? Like Benny said, maybe I think it was somebody else, you need to teach the teacher how to teach you. When you're a polyglot, you have your own style. You don't want to be taught their way. You need to teach them how to teach you. And to me, there's so many natives around me. If I could give them a booklet, with like the 10 things to keep in mind when you talk with Claudio. And then they will I don't have to brag. I need practice. They will make me accountable, by following these 10, 15 rules, and every week giving me their time. And to really, because Italy is a great example for me. If you live in Italy, you learn Italian. Because we do understand English, but we don't speak. So, and we are really coming to you. No matter you listen, no matter you don't understand, we don't care. We just communicate. Even if you leave the room, my mom will keep talking to you. If you're on the phone, we don't care. So, to me, if we could take that and inject that into every other culture, friend, if they would do what my mom does, every language would be easy to learn. So
get a kind of a tutor but on a higher kind of level.
And I'm trying to squeeze from, I've asked around here from other experts, what do they think is this? Today I tried to ask Richard, then I don't care. I know the girlfriends are very bad, or boyfriends at this. Because it's other dynamic going on. But people around me, what can they do to so this is in the blog.
So that's why they can go and check you out and see what you're up to.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, and let's go get a beer.
Let's go get a beer or water.
Being